happy Thursday night, everybody. It's Wes Seiler here with Preserve Navarre, and Mr. Bart Pullum is in the house. Hey, Bart, it's good to see you,
Wes,
man.
good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited about doing this. We've talked about it for a while, and I'm honored, man. I am so honored to have you on the show. We've been building this up for a few months, so we've kind of set up this studio and all this right here in Navarre. And Chaz has helped me. He does a lot of the publicity and marketing for us, so he's taught me how to, hang the cameras and all this stuff. But honestly, man, I'm just happy to have an hour to hang out with you.
It's a great setup and
we're getting there.
Great view.
It's
great
beautiful.
view of the beach over there. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the show is live. So we record it every Thursday. So it's always my pleasure to hang out with folks from Navarre on Thursday afternoon, especially heroes of Navarre, leading folks, influencers, all that stuff, people that own businesses, charities, all those type of efforts. So I love doing this, Bart, every Thursday. It's a pleasure for me. We record it live, then it's recorded after that, so people can come back and watch it. But I love getting the comments and stuff as people jump in. Looks like our sound is good, so that's great. But the comments is really what makes it, is when people comment and let us know what they think.
Sure.
We can put that into the show, so it's always dynamic. It's a lot of fun. So
love to hear some comments and questions if you have any.
Absolutely. Now, my favorite thing that I'm going to get to do with you that I don't get to do very often is we get to talk about this. So before we get to any of the meat, we're going to settle this right now. Okay. So because I've had Robert Reyes on the show, and he talks about Michigan and everything else. Of course, Chuck Pullman, never hear the end of Auburn from Chuck. Oh, this is our year. This is our year.
Every year,
every time. But I've got a true Alabama fan on the show. Thank God, finally. Yeah. So I get to actually take a minute and discuss this with you, because I've been hurting, Bart. I can tell you this, man. When I saw this news right here, it just devastated me a few months ago. I don't know how you felt about it.
First of all, Roll Tide.
Yeah, Roll Tide.
I was devastated myself. I don't think I slept that night.
Right.
My son was crying. I mean, it really devastated our fan base to see somebody like Nick Saban.
It was a source of stability in my life. It's
really
like all these other teams don't have, stability, and their coach is getting fired, and they got all these players transferring. But, Alabama's a rock. We're solid. We don't have to worry about that until this offseason. That devastated me.
Well, I think, I'm going to be positive for next season, and nobody knows what's going to happen. But I feel good. I think our new coach has done well recruiting.
On the board,
and so I'm excited.
And so, I'm in the recovery stage now, Bart, because it's like now I'm starting to see the positive of Nick stepping down when he did. Because I'm glad he didn't hang on for forever.
Right.
I think, there's other coaches that have done that. Joe Pa, Lou Holtz. They coach so late in their life. With Nick, he's still out and about recruiting and all that stuff, and it shows, right? He's out there helping out, giving tips. I watch this every day. This is giving me hope, like seeing Kalen DeBoer and his team and all that stuff. I think they're number 2 in the recruiting rankings. So
far,
so don't get too excited, Chuck, when you watch this, because we're still up there, right? We're still up there.
Still coming after you.
So we'll see, man. We'll see. But, the other thing I was going to mention is I love that there's other Alabama fans down here. This is one of the only spots in Florida where I feel like you can be an Alabama fan and it's fine. You go from the east and it's
I was in Oregon last year, walking through the Oregon airport, and I had a little Alabama shirt on, and Portland, Oregon, and I hear from the far end of the tarmac, "Roll Tide!" Right. Because we're everywhere, man.
We're everywhere. When I'm overseas, if you got it on your backpack or whatever, somebody's going to yell it at you, absolutely. But
what a great fan base.
But here especially in Navarre, Northwest Florida, you're close enough, right? Like you're close enough. You get the Auburn fans, you get the you got Mississippi State fans. Of course, you got the Florida State and the UF fans, but you got Alabama fans here too, and it makes me feel right at home.
Navarre and Pensacola is almost the center of college football. If you think about it, a little ways over here, a little ways over here. Right. Well, we don't have a team here. We have UWF, which is great, by the way, but. Those great college football teams are just a short drive away.
Yeah, exactly. And man, I took my son to the Tennessee Alabama game. That was his first game, and of course Nick Saban's last time playing Tennessee. But hey, we took him out, so that's a memory I'll always cherish. But yeah, man. So as much as I love talking about that, this show is about talking about Navarre and bringing it together, talking about the great people, the businesses, the charities that make it what it is. A couple of those sponsor the show, and that's why we're able to do this. They pay for the lights and all the little software programs that make this happen. Two of them, I know that these guys, Robert Reyes from Stripes, and then Andy DeMartin, Andy D's, two of the best restaurants you're going to find.
Absolutely, and great guys. There's a reason they're successful at their restaurant is because they're both of them are some of the hardest working guys I've ever met, and great restaurants, great food. Yeah. Great service always, every time I'm there.
And one of the things that I've noticed with those businesses, they have events every single night. Like you said, they're always there. They're constantly building community. They're constantly, Robert's got a comedian on, and then Andy's got like bingo or something. They've constantly doing events every night saying, hey, this is a place of community. And Andy said it really well. He said it's about embracing the culture.
You're right.
It's about loving Navarre for what it is. And you see that with all the changes he's done over there. That reflect that. And then, of course, Robert's a plank holder of the community. He's been here for a long time.
He's a mainstay.
Yeah, exactly. And, he told me the whole story behind Stripes and how he built it, transitioning from the military. I love that. So, honored to have those guys as well every time they come by for the show, and really appreciate them sponsoring. A couple other ones. We got a couple small businesses that do this. The Panhandle Shop is one, Tom and Helen Tuttle. They've got a little wood building shop where they do all kinds of different woodworking stuff. These flags are amazing. That's some of the stuff they do. They do tables and everything else and chairs and all that, but they do gorgeous flags, and they'll custom design them for you. They'll put people's names on them. Okay. They gave me one when I got back from overseas.
Very
so
cool.
There's Jersey and Chuck and Nancy. You know them, and there's my son. Right? That's right before we went to the game, actually.
There you
go. But yeah, they do these type of things, and it's really sweet. So if you're ever in the market for a gift for somebody, Tom and Helen are amazing, and I think I put their email on here, right here, the Panhandle Shop. A couple other ones. Cool. The Veterans Treatment Court. This is an initiative by Tommy Nichols and Carmen Reynolds and several other folks to be able to build a charity and support very necessary thing in Santa Rosa County. We don't have one. Okaloosa has one. Escambia has one, but this is a treatment court for veterans who find themselves in a tough spot.
What really a great cause.
Yeah, and Rudman's run it. He's gotten support. Senator Broxson, DeSantis, they've all come on board with, hey, Santa Rosa County needs this. Really cool to see this gaining traction. So they sponsor us. We were talking before the show, Elizabeth Kurz, newcomer to Navarre, but a very, very smart lady, well-educated in coaching teams and leaders. So she's been through a whole lot of training, and she's been a leader at the Chamber of Commerce and done all kinds of seminars for them. So really cool person. She is an expert at proper mindset and how important a mindset can be. And she'll get down into the subconscious with a lot of psychology, and she kind of helps you relook at different problems in a new way, especially in a positive one, which I need. I love that. I
don't know if she wants to get my subconscious. It's scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Well, that's what she does. She helps work through that stuff of, okay, I see the negative, let's focus on the positive, and let's see how we can build a team around that.
We all need a good coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter who you are.
Really cool stuff. And then the last one on here is Chaz and Divergent Spectrum. So we don't get a whole lot of like marketing and publicity and all that stuff. Like, I'm doing these shows and things like this to help, but he's a true expert at this type of thing when it talks about getting the word out about projects. And I love he's everywhere. He's all over the Chamber of Commerce, working with the newspapers, all this stuff to promote local business. That's his big passion, and we love that guy. So he's sponsored us as well and helped us out with a lot of this. Yeah, really cool guy. So those are the people that make the show happen, but the show itself is about the local heroes of Navarre. You've been here, you've grown up here and all that stuff. You know these things, Bart, but a lot of folks, they think Navarre is just a drive-through type of place, right? Like, oh, it's a nice beach and that's it. And for my family and I, when we decided to move here, it was about 7 years ago, it was because we knew there was more than just that. Like, the beach is amazing, it's gorgeous, we love it, but it's more than just that. It's the people, it's the culture, and we kind of talked about it with football a second ago, but it's that unique mix of a culture here that is distinct, and it's beautiful, and some of these people, make it what it is for sure. We talked about Robert Reyes. People don't realize we have NFL players, right? Jordan Jefferson, Michael Carter, the history, the Rick Landris, the war heroes. Colonel Black's another one, right? Like living war hero right down the street.
Right in our backyard.
Then you got all these different businesses like we talked about. Like you just wouldn't expect. Kevin Lucas is one. He's in the medical field doing all kinds of research and innovation in medicine. Right down the street. So it's an incredible community when you sit back and think about it.
It is great, and I can remember as a kid being born and raised here when we used to travel. My father would talk to everybody. Yeah. Would know where they're from. He would tell everybody about Navarre.
Right.
And he'd always say, not only do we have the most beautiful beaches in the world, but we have the nicest, kindest, most giving people that live here. And we do.
We absolutely do. That's what I love about it. Is like when I first, so I knew about this place for years, right? Because I grew up in Memphis. We would come down for vacations and stuff, and I dreamed of living here one day. My wife did not. So Catherine did not. She's from New England. She's from New Hampshire, live free, die. She always thought we were going to move back up there. That was always the plan until she found this place. And she's like, you know what? This place is gorgeous. We'll try it out, right? So we moved here, and then, typical military family, are we going to stay? Are we going to go? We'll see, kind of, base it off of the next assignment, all that kind of thing. But she got locked in when she got involved in the church over in community life, and then got to know the community. She's like, oh my goodness, I love this place, right? And I was like, absolutely. The schools are great. The beaches, of course, are great. The businesses around here are awesome. The food's great. What's not to love,
What's
right?
not to love about Navarre?
Well, you could do so much worse. Yeah. And so she got hooked, and the rest is history for us. This is home. So I totally agree, man. Cool. I love that. But a lot of people don't know that, especially all the military folks coming in, people that are moving here, all the flood of people that are escaping California and New York to get away from the COVID restrictions and are now living here. Those type of folks who have only lived here for a year or two, they may not know all this. I mean, I didn't until talking to you, man, until you started educating me on a lot of this stuff.
There's a lot of history in this area. I mean, a lot more than people think. And I love to talk about it. I know that's a different show at a different time, but
we can talk about it a little bit for sure. Because I'll tell you this, man. Like with the week that we've had, and as busy as we've been as a group, the last thing I want to talk about is this. Right. So we're skipping that for today.
That's good.
I told somebody else, like, if you want to know what's in the news, just read their front page. Yeah. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I love the chance to throttle down from that stuff and talk about something that's way more fun. So we're going to talk about traffic for sure.
Okay.
I want to hit some of the history of it as well, though. So let me pull that up real quick. So we've got some of the history of this area that people don't know that you mentioned. What's it been like? Because that's something, I don't know. I would visit. We'd come in for a weekend. We'd stay in Navarre. Sometimes we'd stay in Pensacola or Destin or whatever. But you've watched all this happen. So
I have. Like? And just a quick story. When I used to leave Navarre Elementary School, which was the only school in town back then, and ride the bus, and I'd get off the bus at my father's office, which is right on Highway 98.
Yeah.
We'd get off the bus, me and my buddies, and we'd actually play ball, baseball, football, in Highway 98. And once in a blue moon, we'd car, and we'd have to go and get out of the way. But and our parents didn't worry because there was literally hardly any traffic. There was really the only traffic was traffic coming to and from Fort Walton to Pensacola.
Right. Yeah.
They were just driving through.
Right.
They didn't have any reason or place to stop. Yeah. So we didn't see much traffic. And then, over the years, obviously, as we've grown, as Hobart Field has grown, we've seen it, all the new Hobart Field troops really take to Navarre as you would imagine they would, because it's so beautiful here, close to the beach, close to Hobart. And that traffic's become more and more, and it's not only had our attention for the past almost 20 years now. Right. It's starting to get the DOD and Hobart and Eglin officials starting to get their attention.
Yeah.
They're ready to make some changes.
Totally right. Yeah, you mentioned the military thing. See, because people know that Destin has expanded, and they know that Pensacola, is big, but they may not realize how much Hobart Field has been built out as a base.
Yes.
I mean, it is hard to find space on there. Yeah. And the mission set for AFSOC, the Special Operations Command, has expanded over the years too. And that just naturally brings a lot of people, But also just, this area, because you look at that mission set, and I always wanted to come here. When I joined the Air Force, I put in for Hobart Field #1 every time. It took me 3 tries to get it, right? I got my #2, and then I got my #3, and then finally got my #1. I was like, yes.
#1,
Yeah, because, come on, in terms of Air Force bases, it's one of the best ones, right?
And it was the
mission set's so cool.
It was a great place to grow up, and, all my buddies growing up, they were all Air Force brats, and so we saw them come and go a lot, but I loved growing up around the military.
Yeah.
I really did, and spent a lot of time on base with my buddies, and growing up around the military. It taught me a lot of history. It taught me a lot of respect. Boy, you go over to some Chief Master Sergeant's house and to play with this kid, and he's going to keep you in line.
Right.
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
The challenge with the military thing, though, is, you're always kind of transient. You're moving.
Yeah, it's tough.
That was a tough one for me. As we hit that point as a family where it's like, hey, came calling, here's your next assignment, and we made the decision to stay here. Mm-hmm. And that was, I remember just praying for days and days on that one, and then I said, I feel like God's calling us here. I mean, this is where I want to raise my kids, and that's when it became more than just a place that I loved. It became home.
Yeah.
But like you said, you still respect the folks that come and go. They're contributing, and that's part of the unique nature of this.
It is. And the cool thing is, me and my father and my grandfather being in the real estate business, is we developed a lot of the downtown Navarre area years ago, and we sold these lots for like $80 down, $80 a month. And so a lot of the military folks would come in and they would buy a lot, and they may leave, but then they will come back here to retire.
Yes. I still have friends doing that.
Yeah.
I'll be like, look, I'll see you in 3 years, man. I'll see you in 6 years, man.
Yep,
I got a friend of mine who's in Hawaii. He can't wait to come back. He's just like, no, I want to be stateside, man. Like, I'd like the beach, but I'd rather have Navarre's. So you're totally right.
We see a lot of retired military living here now. And
but with all that growth comes all the challenge of, urbanization, congestion. See, and you were talking about the roads, right? Like, totally changed. So I want to bring this back up. Because this was a meeting that you had about the traffic congestion,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
This was just, I think it was on the 1st of July or thereabouts.
Something like that,
Yeah, so tell us, because I wasn't able to make this one. What happened here?
So let me give you a kind of a backstory on this community access road that Dr. Rudman had talked about at this meeting, and we've been talking about since 2006.
Yeah.
So years ago, I was heavily involved with the Navarre Chamber, and they had a transportation committee. And I sat on that committee and then became chair of that committee. And it really became a passion of mine, transportation.
Yeah.
And so I would go up to all the county commission meetings. I would travel to Tallahassee and talk to all our delegation there. And I went to D.C. a couple times.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because we had a lot of problems back then, back in the early 2000s, late 1990s. Most of Navarre's roads, residential roads, were not paved. They were all clay.
Right.
And so we made a big push first with the county commission to get those roads paved. And if you ride around Navarre now, it's hard to find a clay road.
Right.
So we were pretty successful at that, and something we're very proud of back then.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you had some of the state highways, Highway 87, which at the time was 2-lane. It was 2-lane. It was narrow. It was very dangerous.
I remember that.
Yeah, there were a lot of people getting killed on 87.
It was terrible.
And so one of the chamber's goals was to get Highway 87 4-lane. So they saw me enough in Tallahassee that back in 2008, the governor decided to appoint me to what's called the Florida Transportation Commission.
Right.
And the FTC has oversight of all of DOT, all the ports, all of the transportation authorities, anything modal in the state of Florida, we had oversight of. And at the time, there were 7 members, and it was an unbelievable experience. And I served in that capacity for 5 years. But we were able, along with the help of our county commissioner at the time, a guy named Gordon Gooden, who was fantastic.
I've heard a lot of good stories about him.
So Gordon knows more about transportation in his pinky finger than I do in my whole body. I mean, he is just a genius. And so he and I sat down one day, and I said, something I'd like to see happen, some things I'd like to see come through Navarre is people in Hollywood by the Sea cannot get to Walmart without getting on Highway 98.
Right.
They can, but they have to go all the way up 399, all the way down Highway 87. And human nature is we want to go from point A to point B. I mean, that's the quickest way to point A.
Yeah, to get where you
point A to point B is a straight line. So people won't do that. They're going to come out and get on Highway 98. So we need something like a Panama City has a back beach road.
Right.
Destin has Mountain Drive, where not a lot of people know about that, but just as you go across the Destin Bridge, you can hang a left and you can get all the way to the airport. Right. But a lot of people don't know about it, but that's what I use all the time. So I said, wouldn't that be great if we had a road close to Highway 98 coming through Navarre from Hollywood by the Sea all the way to Panhandle Trail or Whispering Pines Boulevard, one or the other. And so I took this idea up to Gordon, and he took it and ran with it. He first went to all his county planners, and they started doing, all right, they drew out some maps and drew out some places where they thought something like this can go. And then Gordon realized after meeting with county planners that this was going to be a bigger job than the county could handle.
Yeah.
Because it would be too expensive. There's a lot of variables involved. So we started going to the state. And about that time, Gordon did not get reelected. We had a new county commissioner come in. Elections have consequences sometimes, and that certain commissioner said, no, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. So for 4 years, we sat on our hands and waited. Didn't have any progress at all. So then Rob Williamson, several years later, got elected, and he took the ball and started running with it again. He took it to DOT. Then Dave Peach did the same thing, got DOT to pay for half of the PD&E study, which is project development and environmental. It's the first step in doing a road project is that PD&E. And that PD&E is underway right now. We're about a year into a 2-year study. And so after 2 years, it'll go to the design phase of it, which will take another 2 years. They don't have that paid for yet.
Got it.
So got to go out and find the funds for that. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but then we'll go into construction. So we have this road going from Holly by the Sea to Whispering Pines. At the same time, a few months ago, the military came to Dr. Rudman, myself, and several other folks that went to a meeting at Herbert Field, and they said, we want to do something from the Herbert Gate all the way to the county line. And I said, wait a minute. If we can connect those two projects,
I've seen the maps.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
To
go from Holly by the Sea all the way to Herbert Field. They're talking about putting a back gate there, so you can get on and off the base, and also connector roads come from 98 to the road. So if there's an accident, you have an easy way to come around.
So that's what I was going to say, because just my perspective, I spend so much of my day job building redundancy, that's a lot of what the military does. It's okay, if this plan doesn't work, then what's our backup plan? Then what's the backup to the backup? So we spend a lot. We got a guy who's going to go out there. He's going to go overseas. Okay, cool. If he gets sick or breaks a leg or whatever, who's his backup, then who's her backup, we do so much of that. We spend all of our time doing that, having all those backup plans and redundancy on a single point of failure to our job. It's just what? We have one road. If there's an accident, forget about it. Everybody's late for the meeting.
It's crazy.
I've literally been just sitting there stopped, no one's going anywhere. And then we're texting each other. We're yep, late. I'm do you guys want to just have the meeting? We can just call.
Do it right here. Stop, have breakfast someplace. Have a meeting there.
So they've been phrasing it as a national security concern now. And I think that's language matters too, right? Elections matter, language matters. And I hope that really helps.
It does. And when it starts to affect the mission, it gets their attention. So,
and like you said, I think I got another picture on here. Y'all been at it for a while, right? There's you with Doc Rudman and Colonel Black, Senator Broxson, Commissioner Wright. Right there in the mix with these folks talking about this stuff.
We have a seat at the table now.
Yeah.
And that's very important to talk about things like this. And all these guys right there you see in that picture, every single one of them are on board. And I can't say enough about Colonel Black. Even though she's awesome. She's retired now, but while she was there, in her capacity, she did so much to help.
She lives in Navarre.
She lives right here.
She knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, she knows every day. And her and I have had many conversations about that. So
we had a commander come through, and it was hey, what time are we going to do PT? Our workouts, and he'll see, just how hot it is. He'll change that time from 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. real quick, once he experiences it. The same thing, it becomes a priority when people live in it and see it and understand what we're going through.
Well, and just a few weeks ago, we had a fatality, in between here and Herbert, and that obviously gets their attention too. It stinks that it takes something like that to move the needle, but it happened, and they're ready to move forward. And Dr. Rudman, at that meeting we had back on the 1st, he made that announcement that Eglin because it is Eglin property. You know, Herbert just leases that property from Eglin. Eglin has decided to do a study to where we will be able to cross part of that range that they were sticklers about. Man. So we're excited about that.
Well, that's great, man. And that's it for people that don't know you. That's already, says a lot about you. That you're at the seat of the table with these folks. If you don't know Bart Pullum and the Pullum family, I mean, these are the folks that built the community that you live in, right? Talking about the history of this place. You have a seat at that table, Bart, because of your family, because of what you have done, the legacy that you're building for your kids. I mean, this right here, I think that Senator Don Gates had a meeting with, he said, give me the leaders of Navarre, and there you are, right in the mix, right behind them, right?
Well, he called me, and he wanted me to set up a meeting with him and Dr. Rudman. And I said, sure. So Dr. Rudman, Senator Gates, and myself met at my office for about an hour. But beforehand, his aide called me and said, can you get some community leaders together and let's go have lunch and we can talk. So I made a couple phone calls, and that's the group we put together. And it was it was an amazing lunch. It was enlightening. He gave us some good advice. We gave him some okay advice, probably.
Perspective on what it's like to live here.
And so Senator Yates is amazing. He's past president of the Senate. And he's run it again, and we sure hope.
How cool is that?
It's
coming
great.
Back in
That's great for Northwest Florida. Great. I mean,
the fact that he understands Navarre, with meetings like this, and is going to carry that with him.
He's a friend of Navarre.
So cool, right? Amazing to have those kind of folks working with you and all this stuff. So one of the projects we haven't talked about. So people know Pullum Real Estate. They know that you're influential in doing all this stuff in the community. They may not know some of the heartfelt projects that you and your family are a part of. And that's kind of what I'm excited to talk about is, people know me because I'm pushing for incorporation. I want Navarre to be a city, but they don't always know the other parts of our lives, and that's kind of fun to talk about. So one of the ones that's near and dear to the Pullum family that I'm excited to hear about is the Starfish project. So people may not know this, Bart, but fill us in. What is this exactly, and how did it come about?
So the Starfish project was started by my sister-in-law, Brandy Hook, and her husband Neil, Dr. Neil Hook, and my wife Rebecca then got on board and joined the Starfish project. But what the Starfish project does is they raise money. I'm getting ahead of myself again. My sister-in-law is a speech therapist. Here in Navarre, Full Circle Therapies is what is her business, and she sees special needs kids all day long, every day. And she started seeing a need because kids would come in that didn't have insurance, they couldn't afford to pay out of pocket, and they weren't getting the services or the therapy they needed. And so she started this 501c3 nonprofit organization to raise funds. Mainly to provide these kids with some therapy so they can get better. And it's heartwarming to see some of these kids come in, to see the mothers cry and because their kid is finally getting some help. And and one thing that's great about Starfish is it's a local charity. We serve Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa County. This isn't some worldwide, you're not writing a check and send it to California. It's all of it, 100% of it stays right here in Northwest Florida. And that's something we're proud of. Some of the things we do, we have a big iPad giveaway, for special needs that we do. And I think last year we gave away 15, and we give them away to nonverbal special needs kids, the ones that can't talk. And so they come with an app that's already programmed in there, and the app actually costs more than the iPad does. It's a very expensive app, and the kids can go on there and they quickly, it's amazing how fast these kids learn how to do this, and they start verbalizing. So last year when we gave that away, one of the kids took it and he started messing with it, and for the first time in his life he told his mom he loved her.
Amazing.
Everybody was just bawling. It was amazing.
Because a lot of people, my wife and I were talking about this earlier today, is some people refer to it as special abilities versus special needs, because it's not like, every case is different, right? Some people have one thing they're wrestling with, some things a couple, but a lot of times cognitively, they're 100%, right? Some of them
people
just think, I'm not sure how to handle them, and that's okay. but the people that do work with them, they know.
Where they're at on the spectrum. I mean, there's different levels, I guess, of that.
And tailoring your support to that, right?
Yep, that's right.
Exactly.
Yep,
yeah.
that's what they do.
Awesome.
And I'm so proud of Brandy, my sister-in-law, and Rebecca for putting this together and raising money. And some of the other things they do, we have a special needs Mardi Gras parade.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one.
Yeah, we have a special needs Mardi Gras because there can't be loud music.
Sure.
We can't throw beads and things. So we do it at the high school, and we go around the circle, and they all come out, and we usually have a couple hundred.
That's awesome, man. I love it.
Kiddos, and they have a blast. We feed them pizza, and so it's one thing we do, and then we also do pictures with Santa.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, can't go to the mall with some of these kiddos, and the moms just they can't do it, especially when they're doing one kid after the other in the mall.
Yeah.
And so we hire a photographer. We say take all the time you need. It may take them an hour.
Right.
And some of these moms, they'll have a 7-year-old kid.
You're recreating that experience for them.
We are.
In a safer way.
The mom will say, "This is the first time I've had my child take pictures with Santa." And
so good,
so
man.
just some of the few things they do.
Yeah.
It's just great. So we have our big we have our big fundraiser. We do different fundraisers all year long, but our big one is the Wing Off.
Okay.
It's kind of like a chili cook-off except with wings.
Yeah.
And we usually have about 15 to 18 vendors that cook wings. You come out, you pay $15 for a ticket. You get all the wings you can eat. Pretty good deal.
Yeah.
We also have soda truck and beer truck and things of that nature that we sell. 100% of those ticket prices go to the charity.
Because it's local, right?
Yeah,
you're not having to pay some foreign staff.
We're not having to pay. We don't have staff, anything like that.
Yeah.
100 every dollar.
That's so awesome.
That we raise goes to that charity, and it's a good time. We have live music, we have a kids zone, and then some great wings. The wings are
and what's the time frame? How long has this been around? I meant to ask.
I believe this will be our 6th year doing the Wing Off.
Yeah.
This year is October 19th.
Okay.
So put it on your calendar.
Yeah, October 19th.
And it's usually from like 11 to 3.
Okay.
But you'll be seeing a lot more about it.
I was going to say we should have Rebecca on here to talk about it right before.
Yeah,
That'd
she'd
be
love
so
to.
fun.
She would love to.
You've already mentioned it, but the unique experience, right? The tailored experience to a person so that they get the full joy. That really comes from that Starfish story.
Once you read
I wanted to read it because if you haven't heard this, it'll kind of explain why they named it what they did. And it says this. It's an original story called The Starfish Story. One day a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy hurriedly picking up and gently throwing things into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "Young man, what are you doing?" The boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they'll die." The man laughed to himself and said, "Don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make any difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it into the surf. Then, smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference to that one." Right? I love that, man. That's so good.
That's right. So, one of our mottos is, one child at a time.
Yeah.
And we believe that's where we got that from.
Yeah.
What a great story that Brandy found. And I'd like to say I wrote that, but I did not.
No, it's wonderful, though. It's because it talks about that experience. The reason it meant a lot to me, and I'm excited about this effort, is so my wife works in a very similar vein when it comes to the Nights to Shine event over at Community Life Church.
Shine's great.
And a lot of the same folks participate in that. So I was doing this February, right? And they do like a little military escort, so I got to escort folks, into the because they're doing a prom. Same way you did a Mardi Gras thing and all that stuff, Santa and all that stuff. They're doing a prom for these folks that don't get to go otherwise, right? And they do the same thing, Bart. They tailor it so you get it. The people don't know this when you're at the event, but every person has a little card, and they hand the card to a guy who's got a PA system. And if they like noise and all that stuff, then he's like, "Here comes Richard," right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey," right? And he's loving it. But some folks are like, they don't do loud noise. And they're like, "Here comes Richard," right? And all those folks that you see, like with the little shakers and stuff, they'll go real quiet, and they'll just like hold them up, right? But not make a ton of noise. And they know, right? They flip on the dime based upon what the commentator says. If he says good for it, then they do it. if not. So I got one girl who had been going for several years, and on her card it says, "Do you like music and noise?" And she said, "Normally not, but I want to try." Okay. I want to try, right? And so I handed that card to the commentator, and so here comes Tracy. She likes a little bit of noise, right? And so they did a little bit, and Bart. So I was walking her down, and she tensed up, right? And she was kind of like, going down there, all tense, like, just completely stone faced, making it through. And right at the end of that, right as she got through at the end of that, hey, good job, Tracy. I saw her smile right at the end, like, wow. I did it, right?
Wow, that's cool.
And that's so cool, right? Because cool. in her Starfish, right, in her life, that was a big challenge. It was tough for her to do, and she wanted to challenge herself and have a good time, right? Like,
that's
I'm
great.
just kind of being the audience for that and watching her journey through, even if it was only a couple minutes.
Seeing that's so
cool.
why we do what we do. It really is, and that's why Rebecca and Brandy and all we have a fairly large board of directors. All those guys who are all volunteers. They don't make a dime. But that's why they do what they do, to see these kids progress and have those experiences that they wouldn't normally have.
Yeah, and you've mentioned most of this stuff. So we've talked about the iPad program, therapy service. What's the park project? Do you know that?
So the Navarre Park, when they were designing the new playground area, actually Brandy went to the commissioners and said, we want to put special needs rides and slides and swings and playground equipment in that park. And so they said, sure. And Brandy said, we'll pay for it. Nice. And they were like, absolutely.
Yeah, they love it when you do that.
And so we raised money, and a lot of the playground equipment you see over there now was donated by Starfish, and it's all.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's all not necessarily for the the special needs kiddos, but it's adapted. It is adapted for it. That's the word I was looking for. Man. So that was a great project that they worked on, and we were happy they were happy to do something like that.
And then I wanted to ask, so you talked about, because it's not like full time or whatever with staff and all that stuff, how can people get involved? Because I really want to encourage folks in our group and folks that are watching to support this.
So we have a Facebook page, first of all.
Yeah, I saw that.
Starfish Project of Northwest Florida. That's also our web page.
Okay.
Starfish Project NWFL.org. And so, get on those two sites and request to volunteer, and I promise you will get a phone call.
Great.
Because we're always looking for volunteers, especially for the wing off that's coming up.
Yes,
I mean,
that's the big one.
We'll see 15,000 people in that park.
Great.
And it's a great event, and we always need volunteers for that. So please come visit the site and sign up, volunteer. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So we'll definitely be putting that out in October. I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
So one of the last things I wanted to talk about for today is we've talked a lot about community, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things we haven't talked about is division, right? Because we talked about all the best parts of Navarre. Mm-hmm. We talked about the people, the heroes, the history, the legacy, the successful projects, paving roads, working with Colonel Blatt to get this and that done. Yeah. You talked about the charity work. There's also this subset of Navarre where there's a lot of divisiveness, unfortunately, right? Yeah. I think a lot of it's on social media, frankly, less so in person. But I see these dynamics. It's like people tend to demonize, right? Other folks, they say, oh, you're pro-Inc. or anti-Inc. or, oh, you're a developer, or oh, you're not, or whatever. How do we overcome that, Bart? Is that something, I guess my first question is that something that's always been here? Or is it new? Or?
I think every community has some division in some form or way. Not everybody's going to agree on everything. Just the way it works.
Yeah.
Fact of life. And I think Navarre, trust me, I've been called that greedy developer many, many times, and especially with Facebook and social media. We see a lot of that. And I think it comes down to education.
Okay.
I really do. Especially with the keyboard warriors you have these days.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah, I know you do. They get on there and they don't know what they're talking about. You know, we talk about different community projects, like I was talking about. They get on and say, "No, this is going to ruin Navarre." Why? And they really can't give you an answer. So I think a lot of that is community education. You can't educate everybody, but I think that's a big part of it. Just people ignorant about certain things that are happening, going on in Navarre. And what did my dad used to say? The two worst things you can combine are arrogance and ignorance. And that's true. That. You got some arrogant guy that really didn't know what he's talking about, and it fuels the fire.
Right.
And so,
well, you mentioned labels, right? Because that's a big one. Is I see folks and they attach a label to somebody, and then it's kind of like a way to dehumanize them.
That's right.
Right? Because like you talked about, like the developer stuff. First of all, we wouldn't have houses if we didn't have people that developed the land and like people that realtors who sold it to us and all that stuff. So if you live here, like that kind of, so it can't be this label that demonizes. So I see that divide, right? I see that divide. So seeing through that and realizing, hey, this is a person working a job, right? That one's a big one. Is if you can get past the labels and realize, hey, this is a person, and not just
and it's easy to disregard that when you're behind a computer screen. It's hard to see the person. And
the other thing you have with social media is people kind of tend to see only one side of anything, right? Because of the algorithm show you what you want to see. So I think that's a challenge. You mentioned, go ahead.
You talk about this divide that Navarre has, and it has been around for a while, but I tell you, it's getting better. We're seeing things like the two chambers merging. That was a big division for a long time. And so I know two separate groups, Aaron Crumbly from the Vine. They all got together and got both chambers together and sat in a room for about 7 hours one afternoon and made it work. They came together as one community, and that we have to do more of that.
Yes.
We have to do more of that, get together face to face and saying, hey, this is what our vision is, what's your vision? Let's have a meeting of the minds and come together.
I think that's a great thing, man, is creating spaces. And that to me, like some of these efforts like the Starfish Project and others, is a chance to do that. It's a chance to. So I remember I had a boss in the military. This was at my previous base, and he said, hey, we got to go clean out this other building. And he got all of his team, including us captains and lieutenants and everybody else, master sergeants, the whole thing. And we were all like doing the manual labor of cleaning out a building, right? And then he ordered pizza, right? During that pizza, he was like, I think we got more accomplished today doing this than if we had actually had a staff meeting. Because he's watching people like talking as we're working, and like people are breaking down barriers from different offices and things like that. And then when we were having pizza, everybody was like smoking and joking, hanging out, like having a good time. And like he brought up a couple of things which were pretty like, oh yeah, I can solve that for you. Like, you don't have to worry about that. We don't need a tasker for that. I got it, And that's where he was like, I think we solve stuff by just getting out of our silos and our desks, and being able to sit down and talk about things.
Sure, get out of your shell and
meet the person.
The person, sit down and have a conversation. It doesn't have to be adversarial. Just pitch ideas back and forth. And, you'd be amazed what you get accomplished.
Right, and that to me is a lot of what we need to do as a group. That's why I love doing this show. Is hey, talk to these folks. Before you think that this person's a terrible devil or has no concern or care, like get to know them, right? Be patient with them and hear their side of stuff. So I love that, man. Well, thanks for being here, Bart. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Anytime.
So I'm sure we've got a lot more to talk about. We'll have to have you back on, I'm sure. But this is what we get to do on this show all the time. Preserve Navarre Live every Thursday night. So our website is preservenavarre.com. Our Facebook, you can check us out there, Instagram and YouTube. And then the big one for the Starfish project that we mentioned, that's definitely something you want to get involved in. He mentioned the website for that one. I'll send that one out. October sounds like the next big event, so we'll definitely be down to help with that. And anything else that you got going on, just let us know.
I will.
So, thanks again, y'all. And we appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next week.